So we first met at Upreneur Summit, didn't we?
Yeah.
We stuck a mutual friend, and you spoke about that you delivered your keynote of talk triggers, which was
Mhm.
fantastic.
Thanks.
So you are, without a doubt, a repurposing hero of mine, because content 10x, that's what we do. That's what my main focus is, and this show is always all about repurposing of content in loads and loads of different creative ways. And for you, so this is what I wanted to talk about today. Talk triggers, it just really fascinates me because you obviously did extensive research in order to write the book, and then you've got the keynote talk which draws on lots of that research. You've got the video show, which where we've stepped in and worked with you with the video, podcast, blog posts, all the social content. So where did it all start?
All of my books sort of start the same way, Amy, which is with a collection of questions. One of the nice things is that our consulting firm, Convince to Convert, works with lots of big brands all around the world on social and digital and customer experience and customer service. And because of that, I get exposed to a lot of inquiries from brands and marketing directors who are like, well, what about this? What about that? And in this particular case, in Talk Triggers, which is really a book about the power of word of mouth, what I was hearing from our clients is that they had a fairly good idea, handle now on how social media works and what to put in what channel, but they didn't really know what to put, right? They weren't clear on the story. And I thought, geez, if our clients are some of the biggest companies in the world don't understand how to tell a story, then lots of people don't understand how to tell a story. And so I started to kind of pursue that a little bit. And I realized that people are kind of going about it all wrong, and that we have in the last 20 years, 15 years, since social media has become really popular, we sort of kind of went to sleep on the premise of word of mouth, that the best person to tell your story is not you. The best person to tell your story is your customer. And so that was kind of the epiphany. And I do it a little different than most people. We talk about repurposing. So for me, it's questions first, and the questions get repurposed into a speech. And so I'll write a speech and I'll take it out on the road and I'll do it a dozen times or so, just the same way a stand-up comedian would be. You write new material, you test the material. And once it starts to work, or if it starts to work, then I know there's a book there. And then I take the speech and I repurpose it and expand it into a book, right? And then once I have a book, then that gets repurposed into a podcast or a show or social graphics or et cetera. The nice thing about Talk Triggers from a content standpoint, in comparison to previous books I've written, is that the book itself the content lends itself to case studies, right? And being able to do them in a compartmentalized way, even more so than things I've done in the past. So that's been the easiest one to kind of repurpose. And even now we've got a Talk Triggers Facebook group, which is really active. And people, just today was another one, somebody surfaced a new idea that they found, like, here's a great idea. And here's the thing about sort of repurposing from the bottom, Amy. So we've got this Facebook group, and if you read the book, you get access to the group if you ask us to be in. And so we have, I don't know, 500-600 people in the group, a lot more readers than that, of course, but 500 or 600 people in the group. And all the time they'll come up with new ideas and say, oh, I'll tell you the story, actually. A person in the group, their dog unfortunately passed away recently. And the dog sitter, the sort of pet boarder that handled their dog, Kramer, when they were out of town, sent them a very, very nice, like a glass coaster with a picture of Kramer in it, and just a sweet handwritten note, like, we're really going to miss Kramer here. It was beautiful, so empathetic, so touching, just a really, just a truly genuine gesture, right? And everybody feels that emotion when they've lost a pet. And so this person, like, immediately, posted this story to the Facebook group, and we're like, yeah, that's a great talk trigger. Talkable empathy is one of the ways to create word of mouth. We talk about it in the book. And so now I've got that story. I just told you the story. Now the next time I go give a presentation, which is like this week, I'll probably take that story and put it into the keynote. Well, now it's in the keynote, and I test it on stage, and if it works well, then maybe it'll be a future episode of the podcast, right? So you can repurpose from the top down, right? Which is from the book to a tweet, right? But you can also go the other way around, which is a mention in a Facebook group all the way up maybe to the next book. So it's, people think of repurposing as a staircase that only goes down, but the staircase actually goes both directions if you do it right. Well, and even on my show, even on Social Pros, right, which is a podcast, it has been a podcast since January of 2012. It's always been an audio show, but what we do, partially because of is from you and your team, Amy, is we actually record the video when we record the podcast, and then while we don't publish the full length video at this point, we did for a short time, but while we don't publish the full 45-minute video, what we do is create like a 5-minute video highlights package of the show. So here's the most interesting things that were said in this week's episode, and that video chunk goes on YouTube, and then we also use the video for teaser purposes, and that works great. I just feel like, not to mention the fact, right, especially in a podcast, if you're going to do an interview style show like this one, having your camera on makes the interview better every time. I've been doing this a long time, and it just makes it better. I mean, there's something to be said about body language and nonverbal cues that just makes the conversation more comfortable when you can see one another. Even if you don't ever use the video, I very much recommend that you should record with video on.
Have you done any repurposing of your delivery on stage of your keynote?
Yes, although you would be surprised. A lot of events don't shoot video. B, if they do, it's just locked down because they're using it to throw up on the screens in the conference. So it is video, but it's not great video. And sometimes they don't audio track it as well. So it's not as common as you might think to be able to get really solid output from an event, but we do on occasion. So what we'll do with those is we good stuff we keep, and then we change out my speaking reel, right? So my highlight reel that meeting planners look at to decide whether to hire me, we'll change out bits in there, and then we'll take individual clips of me on stage saying things that are illuminating or funny, what have you, and we use them in ads. So we actually have a primarily Facebook video ad program, which is mostly remarketing. So if somebody comes to my site and spends a little time there, we're like, oh, they must be interested in having me speak. Then we'll start to show them ads of me doing little bits on stage over time to get them to come back to the site and then hopefully, book a date.